What's going on, guys? Today we're going to talk about what type of fields are in the electrical world and what kind of career you should get or you should try to aspire to. First off, I'm going to start off with the electrician side of things. Then I'm going to get to automotive and also as the electrical engineer. Now, first, you have industrial. Industrial is a very good area to start off if you want to. You're gonna get paid pretty good for starting off. Then you might start you at 15, 17, 20, depending for what kind of company you work for. If you work for an oil refinery or some type of plant, like in the Pasadena area, where here in Houston, there's a lot of plants in the Pasadena area or close to the shore, they will pay you a lot of money. Now, saying that, usually it's going to be a drive. You have to drive, and then they might switch you to different plants. You got to go to different plants here and there, so it's going to be an hour or 2 hour drive sometimes. So it just depends on what kind of plant you go to and what kind of facility and what kind of business they do. Also, when you start working in a plant or an industrial setting, most of the time you're going to get a bump, upgrade in money-wise, but it's not going to be that significant money that you really want, like a $5 raise or $10 raise. Usually you're going to get $1 raise per year or $2 raise per year, depending on the company you go work with, because usually there is going to be somebody all the time who's going to show up and know what they're doing. Now, I'm not going to tell you that being with the industrial, they're not going to show you. They're going to have some good industrial people. They know what they're doing, but you're not going to get the whole picture of things, because they're going to show you either their way or they're just going to know what to do in this industrial plant setting. Now, speaking about this, usually, you can become a journeyman in that industrial plant or in that company, but that journeyman license doesn't mean nothing out here in the real world. It just means something in that certain corporation or plant. So, you might be getting paid $30 to $40 an hour at the plant, but once you start coming out here and trying to ask for that kind of money, first you got to know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, they're not going to give you that money, because they're going to give you a test, and you got to know the code. If you don't know the code, that journeyman license is worthless, because people are going to give you that test, and once you get that test, they're going to ask you a whole bunch of questions. And you might know a lot of stuff in the industrial setting, but you might know a lot of stuff in the commercial or in the residential setting. And like I said, in the industrial, you're going to get paid off pretty good, but you're going to have an hour drive. You might not have, you can't leave for lunch. You might just have to bring your food to work. Me personally, I don't like that. I like to go out to eat every day to a different restaurant. I don't like bringing in my lunch, because then it gets all soggy. Saying all that, they pay you good money, but also it's very boring. I've worked in big plants, industrial settings. It's real boring. They just have you doing little stuff for them. They have you like just on the sidelines, like to do the manual labor for the engineers and stuff like that, which is fine. If they pay you good money and you like that, that's fine. But I think that's just a waste of my talent, unless they pay me a lot of money so I don't have to go out there doing side jobs. And I'll stick to that. Next, you have residential versus commercial. Now, when I first started off, I started off in residential. I did a year in residential doing $1 million houses, and I learned a lot. You can finish a house in 1 or 2 months, depending on how fast you do it and how big it is. If it's a big mansion, it'll take you 2 months. But you got to work 12 hours a day, 10 hours a day to get it finished. And usually, when you work in residential, you're gonna get paid by the day. They might pay you hourly, but most of the time they want to pay you by the day, because some days can be 10, some days can be 12, some days can be 15. And then the traffic, getting out of work and getting traffic, sometimes you want to charge the drive time, and most companies don't want to do that. The only way they can really make money if they already have a set amount of price for you for that day and how much they're going to charge. And it's a lot more manual labor oriented, and they push you harder because they want to finish by that time schedule, because once they go beyond that time schedule, they're losing money. So they want to make that money. It's going to be a lot of ladder work. You got to go up and down the ladder so many times. Stairs, you're going to be working on the beams, and stuff like that, working on the roof. And it's very not dirty, but it's more manual labor oriented. Also, when you do residential, you are gonna get in the dirty areas in the attic, and you got to work around people, their smell. I'm not, just they work. People cook different food, so you have different stuff. And it happens. I just did a job right now, and then I took out an electrical box, and it smelled like fish. And then one of the electrical boxes wasn't working, so I took it out, and it was covered up with like feces of roaches or bugs and stuff like that. So you gotta deal with that. In the attic, you gotta deal with squirrels. Sometimes there might be mice. It just depends on the house and how clean those people are. And working on old houses, you just don't know what's gonna expect in there. So usually what I do, I always do my research on old houses, because you have to know what the old timers used to do. To them it was all right, but now to the code that we're up to, you're not supposed to do that. Like, you're not supposed to share neutrals. You're not supposed to just do this and that, cut the wire, splice in, and then start a new circuit. I have been to houses where one circuit is for 2-3 rooms, which is a big no-no now. But saying that, if you learn and you're good at residential, the amount of money you can make is extreme. If you work 24/7, day in and day out, and usually you get to name your own price. I mean, of course, you're gonna have competition, trying to be cheaper than you or whatever. But you're gonna name your price. And if you go after 5 o'clock, you come out of work, you could charge whatever. That's what the companies do. The companies charge you $300-$400, $500 just for a service call after 5 o'clock, especially on the weekends. So that's how it is. Now, commercial is pretty good too. You're gonna get paid good money, but it's at a slower rate. They want you to get the job done perfectly. Because once the walls go up, once the bricks go up, once everything goes up, that's it. Once the stucco goes up, there is no going back. And making holes and stuff like that. They want it done right the first time, so they don't have to come back and do it. Now, saying that, you're gonna be around a lot more big tools, scissor lifts, boom lifts. You're gonna have the hammer drill. You're gonna have the rotary hammer drill. You're gonna have concrete breakers. All that kind of stuff. It's more heavy machine use, but you get to learn a lot more tools that add to your arsenal. Now, in the residential, you have your tools, but it's not going to be so many as commercial. That's why you really get paid that money, because those tools cost a lot of money. And also, the reason I always like using my tools instead of the company tools, one, because of this coronavirus thing going on, germophobic type of stuff, but also because I like to know that I can do the project by myself with my tools if I ever do the project by myself on another project. So, there's a reason why I do that. It's not because, also because they have, most of the companies have quarter tools, and I don't like quarter tools because you got to spend an hour just looking for a plug. That happened to me like 2-3 weeks ago. The company had a quarter tools, and I had the cordless rotary hammer, and then every plug that we went to go check on top of all the plugs that we checked on top of the roof, they did not work. So at the end, we just used my rotary hammer all day long, and it did the job. And it's just good to know that I can do the project by myself with my own tools. Now, saying all that, you're gonna learn a lot in commercial, but you might not learn the fundamentals, because when you get into electrical, especially in commercial, you're lost. You don't know how to read the prints, you don't know how to do anything, you don't know how to do this and that, and you're basically lost. So it's going to take a year or two, unless you really you read up on it or start doing your own research. It's going to take you a while to actually grasp the point. And then also, you didn't start in residential, so you don't know the codes in residential. So you might be able to go do it in residential, some things, but you don't know the codes. So then you're just stuck in that field. So luckily for me, I started off in residential, moved up to commercial, and sometimes I do industrial. So that's the good thing about me, that I know a little bit of everything, and I could do a lot of projects by myself. And you gotta learn the codes. The biggest thing is learning the codes and how people want things done. The next field is gonna be the electrical engineer. Now again, you're gonna make good money. They're gonna start you off at $45,000-$60,000 a year, which is pretty good for starting off. But again, you're gonna need about a year or two as an apprentice or internship or something like that, because a lot of companies don't want to hire people right off out of college because they really don't know what they're doing. So they want a little bit of training. Saying all that, I am not the person for the office. I hate being stuck in the office. I like to drive around my truck, go to different places every day. Going to the same old place is just boring to me. It just depends. You know, if I like to keep my hands always into something. Like the day will go so by so slow if you have nothing to do, just standing at the computer and looking at stuff. It's so slow to me. Other people might like it, but I don't. I like to be on my hands-on kind of guy. I mean, as long as I'm always drawing and doing mathematics and stuff like that, then you know, whatever, I'll do it. If they pay me good money, I'll do it. But I like to be on the go. But saying all that, you know, I do most of the math in the electrical field. But since I didn't go to college for that, a lot of people were like, oh, naysayers, like, oh, well, I'm going to have to double check your work, or I'm going to talk to the electrical engineer, which is fine, you know, I mean, double checking your work. But since you didn't go to college for this type of field, they want to be naysayers, like, oh, double checking your work. So maybe you want to go to college and take a couple classes so you can have some type of degree that's saying that you are actually certified to do this. So, you know, that's a good thing. Next, you have the automotive electrician. Now, this is a field that I might actually go into just because I love cars, and then the future is going to be electric cars, and just learning electrical because I like to work on my cars and stuff like that. So, you know, just the basics. And they make good money. They starting off, they make at $24 an hour, you know, here in Texas. So, I mean, once you really learn what you're doing, how much don't you think they're going to get paid? They probably get paid 30, 40, 50 bucks, just depending on what kind of dealership and what kind of cars you work on. So they can make a lot of money. But again, you're going to have to take an apprenticeship or internship with a dealership or an agency for like a year or two, because you need your practice and you need to learn what you're doing, because they don't want to just start paying you that kind of money, which you know, in some things here and there. So everything has their quirks, you know. Residential, a lot of manual labor. You gotta work hard. You know, it's not gonna be hourly. You're gonna get paid by the day. But at the end of the day, if you're really good at it, then you can go out there and do your own little projects. Commercial too. With commercial, you know, usually the $500, $1,000 is gonna be the starting price, easily. But again, it's gonna be a while before you get into that position of calling the shots and knowing the stuff and having the tools, because the residential teaches you a little bit about everything, like how everything works. And once you get a commercial, it's just a big mass project that it confuses your mind if you just don't know it. Industrial too. Industrial, they will start getting paid off good money. Might be far. You don't have the chance to go out to lunch. You got to bring your lunch every day. You got to be dirty and working around plants and stuff like that all day long. But, you know, they pay you good. And again, they usually will hire out to other people. They'll subcontract the work so they don't have to pay you more money, so they can pay the other people money. That's what you got to think about. Electrical engineer, you know, 4 years in school, spend 50 grand, 40 grand, 60 grand, depending on your what kind of classes you take. But again, once you get out of school, you're going to be making 45 to 60 grand a year more, just depending on what you know and what kind of company you get with. And the automotive electrical, you got to do a year or two as an apprentice or an intern. And as you know, most when you intern, you don't get paid. They might give you here or there salary or whatever, but you don't get paid a lot. So it just depends. If you have a family and you gotta support your family, you gotta make some sacrifices. You know, you might have to take 2 jobs. Learn one day, the daytime learn and nighttime work. So it just depends on what you want to do in life and if you're gonna make that sacrifice.